So this is what I have written down here, and generally this is what I explained. uh,
But I'm not able to hear you clearly.
One second, let me wear my headphones. How about now? Hello. So the this is the this is the introduction that I give in the interviews. Right after they start you the start asking the first question. They generally give you the chance to give you saying that tell me something about yourself. So I start off with this thing, like, I am my name is so and so. I am a business analyst with so much of experience. There is some background disturbance, man. From yours. No, actually, what's happening is that when I'm talking, the same thing I can hear it when. Okay. Huh. Okay, okay. Okay, okay. Fine, fine, no problem. So, this. Yeah, try it once, just in case. Yeah, let's see. I think it is better now. Yeah, yeah. So, this is the basic introduction that I give right in the beginning itself. Generally what happens is that people might the the interviewer might assume that when you ask him this question, when you ask a candidate this question, like, tell me something about yourself, you generally go in the direction of giving personal introduction, like, what is their education background, or and things like that, like, any hobby related things or things like that, take considering that as an icebreaker. But actually, what happens is that, yes, that is the kind of an icebreaker question that you can ask and you can answer also. But then that is for candidates who are like, freshers in a college, where you are attending this campus placements. In that case, this is the correct introduction that you can give. But then, since now it is like, you are an experienced candidate, you have some software experience that you have, and you want to get a job based on that experience. So when you're talking or when you're giving your introduction, you're no longer going to be talking about your personal self and your hobbies and all those things, but then you're going to introduce yourself as a professional, like, and that is what I've changed here. What I'm going to talk about is myself. I am a business analyst with so much of experience and in so many domains, and in and I have hands-on experience in both waterfall and agile methodology. With respect to your introduction, you can change it. You just mention agile methodology, because waterfall, if now you're saying that you have experience in waterfall, they might find it a little odd, because most of the companies have switched to agile methodology. Not many companies are using waterfall, and you better say that you have only agile methodology experience. But then you can say that you know waterfall that much. What is waterfall and how it is different from agile methodology, those things you can say. But then never, don't say that you have waterfall methodology experience. Okay. And then I next I switched to, like, I worked in multiple multinational companies involving in and was involved in many projects, and the following are my day-to-day activities which I performed as a part of these projects. Like, slowly you are drawing them to the point where you can explain what you were doing as a business analyst. Okay. Because that is what they are interested in, that is what they want to know, and that is what they are interested in. And then you get into that thing, like, and in your mind you have to start the complete cycle of the software development. Okay, so where does it start? It will start at the requirements gathering phase. Okay, so that is what I'm saying here. See, I used to be involved in the project right from the initiation, where I would be interacting with the client and gathering the requirements. Okay, and then getting them clarified and eliciting them. So once after you gather the requirement, you get them clarified with the client, and then extract the actual requirements from the requirements that were provided by the client. And then once after obtaining complete clarity on the requirement, I proceed to document the requirement in the form of user stories. So once after you get the complete clarity on the requirements, then is when you proceed to do the documentation process, like in the form of user stories, including all the details such as description and acceptance criteria, along with any wireframes and flow diagrams. So in that when you're talking about this documentation, you're not only telling them that you create user stories, which means that you know how to create the user stories and all, and apart from that, you're also covering the points of the sections of the user stories by mentioning that you have this description and acceptance criteria, and and then you also include wireframes and flow diagrams in the user stories. And then I also mentioned this point, saying that I use draw.io for the flow diagrams and MS Paint for wireframes. Okay, so so that they know what it is. And if you don't cover these things now, what happens is that in the middle they might stop you, obstructing your flow and asking these kind of questions. So you cover them as you go along. Okay, so you say that I use draw.io for the flow diagrams and MS Paint for wireframes, and then after creating the user stories, I get them reviewed by the client, and in the process explaining the contents to them. So when you are reviewing, you are not just getting them reviewed, but then you are explaining the whole thing to the client, like what you have documented, what is your thought process behind that, and so on and so forth. If any wireframes are there, you are explaining the wireframe. If any flow diagram is there, you are explaining the flow diagram, so the complete thing. Okay, and once the review is completed, you obtain the sign off or approval from the client. Okay, so after the user stories are approved, then I explain the user stories to the, so once the client gives you the approval, then you explain the user stories to the internal team members, which are, who are those internal team members? The developers and the QA. Okay, and in the process, answer their questions, and if I am not able to answer the questions, get the answers from the client. So when you are explaining these approved stories to the internal team members, there is a chance that they might ask a lot of questions, and you are well versed with the application, so you will be able to answer all the questions. If not, then obviously you will reach out to the client and get the answers for those questions. Okay, and once that is done, once the internal team members obtain complete clarity on the stories, the dev team starts working on the development of the application, and the QA team starts creating the test cases. So the dev team, they'll start doing the coding part, and the QA team, they'll start writing the test cases. Once the test cases are created, I review them and provide feedback and make sure the feedback is incorporated into the test cases. So you are also here, you are covering one more a task that you perform, like the test cases are created by the QA, you review them, okay, and provide feedback. And once the feedback is provided, you also make sure that the feedback that is provided is also incorporated into the test cases. Okay, so this is also you are covering. And once the dev team completes the development of a major part of the application and gives the internal release, I, along with the QA, come again? Okay. Once the dev team completes the development of a major part of the application and gives the internal release, along with the QA, I, along with the QA, test the application and make sure all the details mentioned in the user story are implemented and are working accordingly. So here you are covering one more thing. Apart from reviewing the test cases, once the release is given, you are also testing the application as well. Okay, and making sure that everything that is recorded or documented in the user story is implemented, and also it is working accordingly. Okay, then and during this validation process, if any bugs are detected, I raise bugs and explain them to the dev team and get them fixed. So during that testing process, if you are encountering any bugs, you raise bugs, and then respectively explain those bugs to the development team and get them fixed. Okay, so and then once after all the internal bugs are resolved and the application becomes bug free, we give a demo to the client and then move the application to the UAT environment for client validation. So this internal validation process keeps happening for a while, and once after all the internal bugs are resolved and everything is perfectly working, then you move this application into the UAT environment, or first of all you give a demo to the client and then move it to the UAT environment. Once it is moved to the UAT environment, and then during the process of client validation, I interact with the client on a daily basis and make sure all their bugs are resolved on time and delivered back to the UAT environment. So once the client starts validating, as a BA, it is your duty that you interact with the client on a daily basis and get to know how the application is working, what is the quality of the application, and then if there are any bugs that they have encountered or any deviations, then discuss those things with the client. And then if they are actually bugs, then log them and then communicate the internal dev team, get it fixed, and then deliver it back to the UAT environment. So this is what you do. And then once after the client validation is completed, okay, is complete, the application is bug free, then the application is moved into the production environment based on the predefined timeline. So once all the bugs in the UAT environment are resolved and the application becomes bug free, then you move it into the production environment based on the predefined timeline. It's not like each and every sprint release is moved into the production, right? So once all the things are completed, then based on the project timeline, you move that into the production environment. And once the application moves into the production environment, the project moves into maintenance phase, during which I interact with the client only when there are any bugs or deviations reported. So once the application moves into the production, the project is taken off and it is moved into maintenance phase, wherein the interactions with the client are limited, and you only interact with them whenever they report any deviation or bug or something like that. Okay, so then apart from the above, I also train internal and client users on the application and create all kinds of documents such as user manuals, training manuals, and any required presentations for status updates. So this big explanation that you are giving during the introduction itself. Okay, so what happens, even if there are like 2 to 3 people who are interviewing you also, this becomes like a soft target for them. You are painting a target on yourself during while you are giving this introduction. But then the advantage is that the target that you are painting on yourself, each and every point I mean, the other person might think that he's giving away so many points, let's get into it and let's see, let's break him here only. They'll not think of anything else. Whatever that is there in their mind initially that they have planned for, they'll forget it. They'll start looking at this thing, what you have spoken about, and they'll catch 2 or 3 points from this, and they'll come back. They'll say, you said you do this wireframing, right? So what is it that you do in the wireframing? Okay, so you can explain. Yeah, wireframing means, based on the requirement, whatever screenshots are there, I come up with I use MS Paint and come up with the screenshots and explain it to the client, and if the client is fine with it, then we retain it and we get it developed by the graphical designer team. Okay, so this way, for each and every point that you have discussed here, I mean, not all points can be, grasped by the audience, because this is something. I mean, right now, since I have written it here, we are able to go through this in detail. But then, if you are speaking like this big paragraph, if you are speaking, then obviously the other person who is listening to it, he might not. He might follow what you are trying to say, but then he might not remembers most of the points. So whatever he remembers, he'll ask a couple of questions, and you'll be able to answer those things. And then apart from that, there is nothing left. What else does a BA do apart from this? Okay. Apart from this, if something is there, they'll specifically ask you like, okay, this is all fine, but did you do any some sometimes they may ask you this question like, do you know SQL query writing? Like when you're doing some validation, no, sometimes the B also will do some SQL query. So you can say that the basic queries, like select star from so and so table, select star from this table, and some basic queries. Or else you can directly deny, man. I mean, there is no harm in that also. You can say that no, I don't know SQL, but provided a chance, I can learn it. It's not rocket science. You can learn it always. Like SQL is the most basics of things, so you can learn it. So if you know something, you can tell them, basic queries you can say. And apart from that, as far as I have seen in the interviews that I have attended, no one else has asked any other question after I have given this information to them, because this covers the entire life cycle. Okay. And apart from that, they might ask you like, what are the ceremonies that you attend, which we have already discussed. You attend the PI planning meeting, and after that sprint planning will be there, and after that daily scrum meeting will be there, and then sprint sprint retrospective meeting will be there, and sprint after sprint the completed, there is one more meeting, and then client demos will be there. That's all. Other than that, there is nothing that you can think of, because here now what is happening, you are on a very small template, you are showing them the complete picture of the life cycle of the software development, along with the points where you are getting involved and what you are doing. Okay, so it is giving them the complete picture. If they need anything else that they want you to do, they will ask you specifically. Otherwise, they are good with this. Okay, and sometimes they might ask you like, which domain you are aware of. Okay, so for that I wanted to ask you, Preet, like, until now, did you like do any job at all, or I forgot whatever that we discussed earlier. Any field is fine. Any field is fine. Just to as a what? Okay. I mean, then we can like, can we consider that as a e-commerce domain? E-commerce, right? So you can. Okay. But then, for the sake of the interview, you can say that you have worked in e-commerce domain, because that is the at present for any person with a smartphone, right? E-commerce is something that whoever is using either Flipkart or Amazon or any such application, you will know what is e-commerce, right? Right, some products will be there which will be showcased in that application, and you will be able to browse through them based on the categories and other parameters like your price, brackets and all those things, and then you can filter the products, and specifically you can select a product, and you can see all the different pictures of the product, and then if you like it, you can put it in your cart, and you can purchase it after making the payment, and then it will be delivered on a certain day based on the whatever is mentioned over there. Okay, so this you can explain that if they ask you, like, do you know any domain, you can say that yeah, I worked in the e-commerce domain, so the basics of the e-commerce I know. And then apart from that, they might give you a scenario, okay, asking you to come up with a user story for that. Okay, so in that, I mean, over there, actually, what they're looking for is that, two or three things, man. First thing, what is your, problem solving ability? Like, in the, if they are giving you a scenario, ATM machine, I want to operate it with a phone number instead of your regular credit card or debit card, this kind of scenario, then they are trying to see how you provide a solution to this particular scenario. Okay, and how do you come up with the user story? So I mean, you will answer saying that, okay, I will I mean I'll create a solution in such a way that the user will enter his registered mobile number into the ATM machine, so that the system will recognize that mobile number belonging to the particular bank, and it will send an OTP, temporary OTP, which can be used as a PIN number to log into the ATM machine. So this is the solution that you have provided, and then they'll also ask you to come up with the description, like, as a user, I want the system to do so and so that I can get this benefit. So in this case, they are actually looking for that particular format of the description, because like I told you, this is a globally used format for all the user stories that need to be created. So you have to explain it in that manner only. Do not deviate from that, because in any organization, this is the format in which the user stories are written, and there is no in the organization related format, something like that. If it is an FSD, we can manage, we can say that in our organization we used to write it like this and all those things. So you can, but in the case of user story, you cannot do that. You have to stick to this format only. As a user, I want the system to do so, to give me so and so things, so that I can get this benefit. Okay, and once that is done, then you have to write you have to come up with the acceptance criteria for the scenario, like, what all you want to validate in that particular functionality that is being developed, so that the system is ensured to be robust and bug free. Okay, so this, and then apart from that, they might ask you maybe if there is a intellectual genius in the interview panel, they might ask you this invest and that smart and those kind of things, and those kind of things they might ask you. So yeah, I mean, just memorize those things, man. Unnecessarily, just because of that thing, you don't want to lose the chance, so just memorize those things. And then sometimes they might ask you scenarios, like, was there a scenario where the client was not agreeing with the application that you have developed, and he was adamant, those kind of things. So generally what the answer that I give is that I say there was never a scenario like that, because I don't I don't let such a scenario arise. Because see, these kind of scenarios arise only when you keep the client in the dark. with respect to the requirement. I mean, not intentionally, but then you don't interact with them frequently, and one fine day you suddenly come up with the complete developed application. Okay, so if this is the case, then obviously the client will be taken back, and he might start, or they might start questioning what you have developed. I mean, why did you develop it like this? We did not agree on this. These kind of things might come up. So in order to avoid these things, whatever that is happening, like once after the requirement is provided to you, you get the clarity. Then onwards, you make sure that what you understood is also understood, or is also conveyed to the client as well, so that he and you are visualizing the same thing. Okay, it should not be like you are seeing something and that guy is imagining something else. Okay, and in order to ensure this thing, like right from the beginning I've been telling you, we have to come up with the screenshots as early as possible. So you following this procedure, there won't be a chance where the client, after you develop the application, he's like, I don't want this, this is not what I wanted, let's revamp the whole thing. That will never happen. Okay, and this could be one of the questions. And then apart from that, they might also ask you, was there a scenario where two different team members from the client side were giving you two different requirements for the same feature or for the same functionality? Okay, so this thing you better avoid, man. You can say that in my case it was only one person point of contact from the client side, and he was giving me the requirements, and I was following that and developing the application accordingly. That's it. Because if you try to answer this thing, they might smell something, and better avoid these kind of questions. Okay, and then what else? Sometimes they might also ask you to write the stories as well, on a piece of paper, that kind of thing they might ask you. And there will be some people in the interview panel, they might give you some riddles also to solve. Not riddles, sorry, puzzles, to look at your that problem solving ability and all those things. But I don't know if that is the right way, because I was given once a puzzle like that, and I could not solve it. And I did not get the job. But then when I came out, I was like, see, my communication is good. I can understand the requirement, and I can do the right kind of documentation and all those things. I had all the skill sets. Just because this puzzle, it was a very complex puzzle, man. I mean, for me it was very complex, but so what he asked me was that you have 10 buckets with you, 10 buckets. All the 10 buckets are filled with iron balls. Okay, and each ball, I mean, all the balls in all the buckets weigh exactly 10 grams. Exactly 10 grams. But in one bucket, the balls weigh 10.1 gram. Okay, only in one bucket. So there is a electronic weighing machine there. Okay, and then you have to weigh the balls only once, and then determine from in which bucket these 10.1 gram balls are there. Okay, so that was the question. So I was like, I gave all kinds of answers. First of all, I said that since it is 10.1 gram, it might look bigger, so I'll identify it with my visual, by looking at them. He said no, all the balls look the same size and everything. Then I was like, I don't know. I mean, I gave some. I did make some attempts, man. Right now, I'm not able to recollect what all answers that I gave. I said, I'll take the balls into my hand, each one of them, and I can identify that, one of the balls is more heavier compared to the other balls. And then I'll keep that on the weighing machine, and most probably that will turn out to be the 10.1 ball. But he said no, that also is not possible because it is just zero point 0.1 gram. So putting them on your hand might not give you the correct answer. Okay. Then I gave up. I said I'm not able to come up with the answer. Then he told me the answer that what you do is that you take from each bucket, from the first bucket you take one ball. Okay, from the second bucket you take two balls. From the third bucket you take three balls. From the fourth bucket you take five balls. Like this, there are 10 buckets, right? So you, from the 10th bucket you are going to take 10 balls. Okay, so like this, when you take, the weight will be some numerical value, point decimal something. Okay, so that decimal will give you the number of this bucket, because if you are taking if that 10.1 wala ball is in the first bucket. Okay, so the weight will be 0.1 only. I mean, whatever may be the weight, the initial weight, it could be some 500 grams also. 500.1, because how many 0.1 balls were taken from the first bucket? Only one, right? So it will be 0.1 only. But then if you take, or if those balls are in the 8th bucket, since you took 8 balls from the 8th bucket, it will be 0.8. Okay, so this way you can determine in which, from which bucket that balls have come specifically. So that's how, that's what the answer is. But I could not, come up with the answer. So he did not give me the job. But I felt, it was not the correct way, man, because, for me at that level, I was like 3 years experienced BA. So at that level, this was a very complex question for me. So I was like, and when I think some time later the HR called me to take feedback of the interview and something like that. I told her that, see, everything went out fine. Everything went fine because I was. They conducted 3 rounds for me, and this round was conducted with the vice president of the company, and he asked me this question. So I was like, I have passed 2 rounds already. In the third round also, everything went well. Just because of this one question I did not answer, he rejected me. So I did not like the, way in which I was rejected and all. She was like, oh yeah, that thing. But but again, I don't feel that I don't think that they are going to ask you any kind of puzzles as such. Okay, and even if they ask you also, I think you will be able to answer all kinds of things. Only thing is that have a free mind. Keep your ideas flowing, and go to the interview as if you are giving some introduction of yourselves. It is not like an exam. Do not consider that as an exam, like I have to pass this and they are going to scrutinize me, they're going to ask me all kinds of questions, and this should not be your state of mind. If you are in that state of mind, obviously it will add a lot of stress to your mind, and then you will underperform. Okay, so make sure that you are free. See, good, bad, ugly, whatever may happen, I want to express myself. I want to be I want to express myself in the most positive way possible. that should be your outlook always. Okay, and then you will be able to crack the interview. Then other things they might ask is like, if they are like you mentioned in the introduction that you are well versed with the agile methodology. So they might ask you some specific agile related things like, what is a backlog, okay, and what is epic, what is feature, and what is a user case, what is a user story. I mean, user story, yeah, it is there. So they might also ask you like, you said you review test cases, right? So what is the content in the test case? Okay, so test case, it consists of a title, like, the application is failing somewhere here, or the button that is supposed, when the user clicks on certain button, it is not navigating the user to a particular screen. Okay, so this is the title, and below that you give some description like, in this application, in this screen, this thing is not working, and below that you provide the steps to reproduce. Okay, steps to reproduce in the sense, right from login, when you log into the application, to this particular error that has occurred, to this you have to line by line mention each line, like, log into the application using these credentials, and then in the landing page, click on this button, and then the system will navigate to this screen. In this screen, click on this button, a pop-up window will open. In the pop-up window, enter all these values, save it. Once after the record gets saved, try to edit the record. When you try to edit the record, the system is showing some error, and then whatever the error message is there, if possible, take a screenshot of that and attach it to the test case. Okay, so this is the contents of the test cases. And so you have some idea about Azure, right? The application, Azure DevOps. So they will not ask you specifically, they will just ask you, where did you write your test cases, or user stories, sorry, not test cases, where did you write your test user stories? So you can just say Azure, we were using Azure or Jira or something like that. But if you are like, a little not that confident, you can just say that we were not using any application, we used to write all the things in Excel sheets. Because there are a lot of organizations which are not using any applications except for MS Office. They manage the entire project using MS Office only. So it is not some kind of a bluff that if you are saying that we use Excel only for everything. Okay, so you can say Excel. In Excel only we used to write test cases. In Excel, user stories. In Excel only we used to write test cases. In Excel only we used to log bugs and everything. And you can, say that. Okay. So this is something, man. And then they might also ask you like, how the PA planning. I mean, they don't come to that level generally, because I have seen many interviews where okay, yeah. I mean, it is. Yeah, wrap it up. Okay, man. We'll connect tomorrow. And meanwhile, Preet, try to this content. I'll send it to you in the email. Try to memorize it, but then do not memorize it. What you have to do is that you think,